that night, I guess Frances closed the store probably that night. She'd had to. And then the next day I had to open it up and you know, so I was busy. And so I did not go back up. And now I remember, and I can't even think of the guy's name now, that they came down from the museum up there. What museum was it? Provincial Museum or something like that.
Oh, Don Abbott?
Abbott, yeah,
Don
yeah,
Abbott,
yeah,
I think.
yeah, Abbott, yeah.
He took a few days to get down from
Right.
DC.
Well, they had to get a hold of him, and then everything, it took some time.
Yeah, like John Green says, kind of vaguely, like 2 days or so, you know, Don arrived. And while they were waiting, they heard about the tracks down on the sandbar that were supposedly a few hundred yards downstream from the PGF site that was going to be filmed later. Yeah, so then what happened after that? Where were we?
I don't remember.
I guess we're still at John Green's second trip in summer of '67.
Yeah, well, just like going back to the timeline, so basically late August he came down here for the Onion Mountain stuff.
Yeah.
And then left after, I assume, a few days. He doesn't say how long he was down here.
And I don't even know whether I saw him when he was down or not.
He just says late August.
Yeah.
And he came down with that dog then, and he said he met you.
Well, he may have.
At that time, Meet Sal of Willow Creek, and also met Mrs. Ryerson, and then drove back to Canada.
It's possible that I've seen him, because they were coming, those guys come into the store quite often.
Yeah.
And I didn't keep it long or anything.
Well, I don't, my bookstore, I don't do that either. Like, eventually it starts to sink in, like you hear, you get to know enough people.
That's right.
Oh, that's Ken, the Bigfoot guy, who has a Sasquatch on his property over in Odenflat, you know.
Yeah.
After, like, seeing him about 10 times, he's slowly telling me more and more.
Sure.
But from now, at this point, I want to have, like, a tape recorder and, like, record all these stories, because maybe somebody's going to ask me questions when I'm 80, so I don't remember that. What are you talking about?
Well,
I didn't remember it the day after it happened.
No, it's hard to remember, and I'm amazed. I remember as much as I do, but
well, you're as sharp as you can be, I think.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's I don't know.
It's great to have this opportunity to get some more questions on record for.
Oh, sure.
For the future, and these crazy stories on the internet will come and go.
Some of those things I don't even mess with.
Well, some of them are based on just the silliest of minor technicalities.
Oh.
And,
well,
almost not worth the time.
Those are people that have nothing to do. That's all I can say. I got more to do than to mess with.
Well,
like
MK did such good work on the film analysis, and you could say the same about Dave. Paulides did such great work in interviewing all those people out in Utah. Right. I don't understand, like, this email that was sent to you. All of a sudden, he said something along the same lines to me about the Ray Crow archives in the film, but this got leaked out, from Dave Paulides to you. From June this last year, I actually got my hands on a fairly old copy of the PG film, full framed with segments on it nobody has seen, except for John Green and people who saw the documentary. It is in the hands of experts, and many of our impressions of what actually occurred is playing out. But he says, I actually believe that John Green and Gimlin are harboring a very, very dark secret, really.
And I leaked that to John Green.
So you're the one who sent it to
and
Green.
that's when the fire started flying.
Yeah. What did you feel when you got that email from him? And was there any precedent?
I told him that was wrong. I told him that that's not right. There's no way. And I told him why. And but sometimes you can get something in your mind so tough that it's hard to regard us. But I know better. And MK would stop training. He had to have it coming here late at night. Come here at 10 o'clock at night and want to talk to me.
All the way
And-
from Mississippi.
Yeah. And it's okay, but not all the time, you know. There's times you can't help it. But this last time, and he was telling how they killed one, and this is a skin over here, and this, and they buried it. And I said, first place, what'd they do with the skin? What'd they do with it? They buried it. Well, why? Why skin it if you're not going to do something else with it? And then what about the carcass? They buried it. With what? Backhoe. And I said, wait a minute. No backhoe down that creek. And I said, I was there the next spring and there was no tracks.
The MK sees like one rut that's near a log, and
Well,
he
you
told
see
me
what you're
that's the
doing.
tire tracks. I'm like, where's the rest of the tire tracks?
That's right.
And why didn't anybody else report all this construction activity when they
that
went?
picture is, see, that's where they're getting the two, Blue Creek Mountain and the film site was down the creek.
Yeah, so these
The two of
pictures
them.
that you saw earlier there on the Blue Creek Mountain, you're going to be seeing like road conditions like that up
That's
there
right.
with tire
That's right.
tracks and
That's
everything.
right.
But in the actual film, he sees blood in the ground.
Oh, I know.
And also, this is all green foliage in these pictures. But they're claiming that the PG film was taken in like earlier period. Yet, when you, as a local, you obviously seen the color of the leaves. Like there's yellow and red and brownish.
Well, John called me about that. He wanted to know what that time of year was
Yeah.
there frosting or was there leaves turning at that elevation? And so what I did, I went and checked the elevation up there, and then found a place here, about the same elevation.
Yeah, that's
And
like
yes, they turned red.
3,000 to 5,000 feet approximately.
Well, the creek is
Yeah,
not that high.
Creek bed's about 25.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
that's right.
so.
You see, Berry
That
Summit's
rough area.
not quite 3,000.
So we're talking pretty close to like our local hills here.
Yeah. And that early October, it's turning. The leaves are turning red up there.
Yeah, and yellow, especially like anyone who's driven on the 299 or lives here,
Yeah.
you know fall has come. Like September and August are really summer.
That's
you know?
right.
And then all of a sudden in October, the first cold snap, those leaves suddenly start turning yellow,
That's right.
and not before. I mean, do you remember
No,
your whole life ever seeing
No,
it turn?
September really don't. It seems like it's about October, and some years it might be a little later.
Plus
But
or
you know,
minus a few
Yeah.
days or a
That's
couple of
right.
weeks. But I mean, I've been living up here, coming up here into Willow Creek since '93 or so, and I always remember the fall leaves.
Oh yeah.
It's always October.
I like this map. You got that down here? at the
Yeah,
portrait?
from the ranger down at the station.
That's all right.
What-
Well, that's
Maybe
good. I
since
like
we
that.
mentioned the ranger, though, can we talk about the night of October 20th, 1967? Like, there's all these questions about the timeline, and
Yeah.
apparently Roger came and told you that they went over Martin's Ferry Bridge. And there's questions about whether you could go over the Bald Hills Road or go to Eureka over the 299 coming down to 96. And I mean, also these other things, whether there was a airport used or a post office. And I'm sure you heard this a million times, but really good to kind of try and clear it up, I think.
Well, I tried to, but the thing of it is, I can't.
Yeah.
Now, I know one thing. The road was open. You go across Martin Ferry Bridge at that time, over Bald Hills, and go out and Oric and in Eureka.
Reset this again. Okay, starting third segment. So,
But I mean, let me finish. Okay. Then you could go in to Eureka that way, but I don't know if they save any time or not. And plus, they told me, Roger told me they mailed the film at the old post office. Well, it was the main post office at that time. It's there on
In Eureka, the big,
yeah,
big red brick building there.
Yeah, right, big.
It's like
It's
3
on
or
H
4
Street.
stories tall.
8th Street and I can't remember what, 8th and 5th or 6th, I can't
Yeah.
remember. And anyway, he told me he mailed it there. Now that's all I know.
But how could, I mean, I'm not saying he's lying or that you are making up something or don't remember correctly, but like, I've always been puzzled by that, that the post office is probably closed at 5 o'clock then, as they do now, right? How
Yeah.
could they have done that if they left at around 3:30 is what Bob Gimlin says, and then came to Willow Creek.
3:30, they left.
Oh, they left from
Up there at
Louse
3:30.
Camp area where they were camped and got out over the road into, well,
Yeah,
either
that's-
Bald Hills Road or else the 96 coming to Willow Creek. And Gimlin in his 92 interview with John Green says he came from the film site to town to see Al Hodgson, which would, I assume, mean town meaning Willow Creek first.
Well,
Is that how it happened?
No. No, I don't know how that happened. Now, or I mean, I should say, I don't want to say that's how it happened. That wasn't what Roger told me.
So,
Roger told me that they went over Bald Hills, over to Oric, and into Eureka. Now, could they make it there before the was closed? Yeah, I think they before the post office closed. But whether they could make it from there, then back to Willow Creek, and that same line, I don't know. By
Well-
shortly after 6.
it took me about almost 2 hours to go from up near the Bluff Creek Bridge or whatever, across the Bald Hills Road and get to Oric. It's like an hour and 40 minutes. And then it's like 40 some miles from there to Eureka. So, and probably about, I mean, from the film site out to the 96 is, it's got to be at least a half an hour. You know, I would estimate closer to an hour to get out on those dirt roads. So I mean, it's like 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30. They're not getting into Eureka until like 7 or something on that route. Whereas if I come down Willow Creek, I can be. It's only about 30 miles from like, you know, from Willow Creek to Witchpeck and the Bluff Creek area there, like right by the road to Fish Lake. I think is 29 miles.
Well, I never really tried it, you know.
Yeah.
But I thought he probably could make it down there. Both ways, he could make it back down there and back to Willow Creek by shortly after 6.
Yeah. Well, you were working and you went home. And the story goes you came home and it was like 6:15 or so, right? And you were cooking hot dogs on the barbecue or something.
That's again. I started to build a fire.
Okay.
You know, 2 hot dogs, but that was. I don't know exactly what time. I know the store. I usually close the store at 6 o'clock, and it takes me a little bit of time to close, and get locked up and take the money to the bank and this sort of thing, make a deposit, and then came home. So it probably was 6:30 before I got home. Maybe that.
Okay, so
That's a guess. That's all.
that
And,
adds 15 more minutes because a lot of people say 6:15.
Well, it's possible not in 6 feet. I don't know. I have no way of knowing.
But you don't know. I mean, aside from what Roger said about going over Bald Hills and stuff, do you know is it possible they came to see you first and then went down there?
No,
And-
I don't think so because of the, unless they went back after, what they told me, okay, they were anxious to get back to the horses. And when the Sil McCoy called and wanted to meet with them, and we talked then for some time. I don't know how long, an hour, maybe almost 2, maybe, down there to Forestville.
And they had already delivered the film at that point.
That's right.
So maybe Bob Gimlin's recollection isn't correct.
Well, I wouldn't say that's wrong, but it's possible. It's very possible. It's possible that Roger, that Bob's time when they left up there as a guest, maybe he's wrong. I don't know. I just don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, things are tricky in that canyon too.
That's right.
You can be down in there at the film site and feel like it's, you know, much later
Yeah.
in the day.
Personal experience there for,
Yeah.
I think, everyone who's been up that creek.
Well, you get down there, it's
Yeah.
The canyon's so steep and
It's,
everything.
exactly, it's deceptively steep, and the
Yeah,
sun
that's right.
disappears very quickly.
Yeah, and it
And,
was getting dark.
Oh,
He
yeah.
said it was already getting dark when they left. I mean,